Oh my god, this is insane. So every morning, no matter what, I like to start my day with some kind of fresh produce. So I like to say produce because it can either be fruit, it can be cold pressed juice, it can be a smoothie. This is also really easy when you're traveling too because you can always find a piece of fruit. Like any restaurant you go to, any hotel will have one. I also really like to stick to food that's in season. Of course, if I want any kind of produce, I'm gonna eat it no matter what season. But I try to kind of aim towards those that are in season because food that's naturally meant to grow during certain weather climates is just gonna be better for you. The soil's healthier, it's a little more natural. Always think the less manipulation we can do in nature, the better. So for juice, I wanted to stick with some veggies that are kind of more fall veggies. I did spinach, celery, cucumber, ginger, and lemon. Now, one thing about juicing is that I don't like to add fruit to my juice because it ends up being very high in sugar. I've talked about this before, but just to quickly reiterate, I prefer to blend my fruit and juice my vegetables because at least when you're blending the fruit, you're getting all of the fiber, whereas when you're juicing it, the sugar concentration gets a little bit high. Now, a really good trick to make it not taste bitter is to add a lot of ginger and a lot of lemon or lime. I'm telling you, these two ingredients are so good. They will really mask the taste of any bitterness that you're gonna get from veggies. I don't even think it's that bitter without it, but I can understand if you're new to juicing, this can really, really help. When it comes to juicing, I prefer to use a slow juicer, which is also called a masticating juicer. You can also get ones that are very fast. Those tend to be the noisier ones. These are centrifuges, and when you get one that's very fast, you can take bigger chunks and it comes out much faster. So a lot of people find that more convenient, but you actually get more nutrients and more juice when you use a slower juicer, and it's not as noisy. So for me, it's kind of a win-win there. I don't mind chopping it small because, you know, I'm already gonna break it in half once. Like, what's another quick slice? So to me, I don't really mind doing that. I love adding cucumber to juice because it's so hydrating. Cucumber is literally one of the most hydrating foods in the world, and it adds a very, very light taste. So you can get a nice like freshness to a juice without adding like a fruit. So cucumber is a really good one. I tried doing half peel because a lot of times when you put too much peel, it can be a little bit bitter. So sometimes I like to go half and half since a lot of the great nutrients and antioxidants are found in peel. So I like to give myself both options, and it kind of just depends on the mood I'm in. No matter what season it is, I'm really big on cozy drinks, but especially in the fall. Like, there's just something about a warm, cozy drink. And the one thing I've been having on repeat is my Dandy Blend latte, but I've been kind of adding a little twist to it now that it's getting into fall weather. I've been doing a pumpkin spice coconut milk Dandy Blend latte. So Dandy Blend is basically just a coffee alternative. It gives you that kind of coffee latte taste, but it doesn't have any caffeine. It's a blend of extracts of chicory root, dandelion, barley, rye, and it just, when you heat it up and add the milk, it really gives you this kind of latte feeling. Like, I have a different video on when I explain my coffee alternatives. I can link that below if you want a little more info on the Dandy Blend. But this recipe that I've been doing, I think I've officially perfected it. You guys have to try. I basically put my coconut milk into my frother and I'll warm up the water. I do 50% coconut milk, 50% water, so you really want to go half and half here. I like doing a heaping tablespoon of Dandy Blend, so I'll really do one heaping tablespoon, then just like a little extra for love. You can always add a little and then taste it, and if it's too watery, you can add more, but this is what I like to do. And then it's the pumpkin pie spice. I really load up the pumpkin pie spice, which is so good for you. It's nutmeg, cinnamon, cloves. Like, I'm sure every brand makes it a little bit different, but that's usually what you're gonna get. And then you stir it up and it is so good. And really quick, just to get into the coconut milk, I'm very, very specific on the brands of coconut milk that I like. There's actually only 2 that I drink because when there's something that I'm gonna be consuming every single day, day in and day out, I really don't want it to have added gums and fillers and like kind of like the nasty additives, the natural ingredients, which are not natural. So I try to keep it as clean as possible. If I'm out, of course, I'm just gonna grab a latte if I want like a quick protein bar, but on my staples every day, this is something that I really commit to. So I found 2 brands of coconut milk that are super clean and are absolutely just pure coconut milk. One of them is by Native. Now make sure with Native that you look on the actual label because they make a few different versions. You wanna get the one that says simple and says no gar, which is meaning no gar gum. And the other brand I found that doesn't have any additives is called Aroid. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right. I'm gonna pop it up right here, but you can find both of these on Amazon. Okay, now let's get to the food. So one of my obsessions, I'd say for the last year, but I took a little break this summer because this is kind of a warmer breakfast, but now that it's, getting into fall weather, it's kabocha squash. This breakfast is so delicious, and honestly, it might sound weird for anyone who thinks that squash for breakfast is a little too earthy or like doesn't sound appetizing, but even the girls on my team who thought it would sound gross were over here filming with me and tried it, and they loved it. So definitely don't knock it till you try it. So you just want to buy a kabocha squash whole. I like using smaller ones because it's kind of the perfect serving size for one person, even though I might not be able to finish all this, it's really big. And before you do that, you want to poke some holes like throughout the squash. So just pierce it like 5 or 6 times with a knife. That way it won't get too overheated when you're putting it in the oven. So cook it at 400 degrees for about an hour, and then when you take it out, you can just kind of slice it open. You'll see that you have all the seeds and kind of just the stuff you don't want to eat that you can scoop out. So just scoop that out and set it aside. You could even make little pumpkins, squash seeds if you want, and bake them. Now the rest of it, there's a little trick here, because I find that if you eat it on its own, it kind of just tastes like baby food, which I'm not a huge fan of. So then take the remaining squash and put it into a blender with a little bit of plant milk. You don't need too much, but just enough so that it gets a smooth consistency, because as you can see here, it's like really nice and smooth. I don't personally like it chunky. The other reason you want to do this is because I really like to blend a banana. I find that when I just eat the squash on its own, especially after blending it, it kind of tastes like baby food, which I'm not a huge fan of. I like to add a little bit of sweetness. So I'll do like 1 banana, half a banana, like whatever you want to do. Blend it up, add a little bit of cinnamon, blend. You might want to add a little more plant milk depending on the consistency, and then this is how it's going to come out. Then at that point, you can really just make it your own. When you take a bite, it's honestly so sweet. Like, it's so yummy. It smells so good. It really just smells like fall. I like to top it sometimes with some pecans. This is also a really nice way to serve it. You could do any kind of like nut butter on there. Sometimes I've even blended it with an almond butter when I want like a heavier, more dense meal. You could add hemp seeds if you want a little protein. Like, you can really just use this as your base to kind of add anything else you want, and it is so good. It's so filling. If you make a bigger squash, you can also save this for like 2 or 3 days, and it's actually very filling. For something that's so low calorie, it's very filling. So because it's low calorie, I also like to add either like a little bit of nut or nut butter or something. Like today, this is a pretty good breakfast for me because I've got the juice, I've got this, I've got the coconut milk latte. Coconut milk has a very generous amount of fat, which I like the healthy fats from it, but it definitely fills you up and gives you a good boost of energy. So this is kind of a perfect breakfast. And while we're here real quick, I do want to touch upon food combining and adding the banana into here, because I have seen a lot of you ask, is that proper food combining? There's 2 things I want to quickly talk about. Number 1, banana, when you are going by food combining guidelines, isn't considered the kind of fruit that you can't mix with things. Because it's a more dense fruit and it's digested more slowly, you can actually blend it with a little bit of protein. So whenever there's a fruit that I'm gonna mix in with any kind of like starchy food, it's gonna be banana. I usually don't like blend berries. But with that said, I don't follow food combining like to a T. I think when I can, I do it. I'd say I used to be 80-20, I might be like 70-30, 60-40. It kind of became more second nature to me now, but it's not something that I 100% abide by. Like, I love the concept of it and I find it really fascinating and it makes sense to me. But if it doesn't work for you, you don't have to do it. And if you have no gut issues and no digestion issues, if you have all the energy in the world and you feel great, do what you're doing. You know what works best for your body. But I did want to share that because there are a lot of recipes where they might not be perfectly food combined. I am not perfect, and I just eat, however I want to and what makes me feel good. So just wanted to share that. I will also link everything that I shared in the video below. Of course, none of this was sponsored, but if you guys want links to the frother that I use, the blender that I use, and the juicer that I really like that I've been using, I will link all that below. Please leave any questions or comments and let me know if you want some more of these fall-inspired breakfast or food ideas.